So welcome to today's Sunday school. This is Sunday, December 18th, 2011. Chairman Tesba Sarbe. To start this meeting, we'll just rise and say the Moorish American prayer. 5 on the left and 2 on the right. Okay. Allah, the mother and father of the universe.
Allah, the mother and father of the universe.
Mother, father of love.
Mother and father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protection.
Allah is my protection.
Allah is my guide.
Allah is my guide.
My salvation.
By
night and by day.
By night and by day.
Through his and her holy prophet.
Through his and her holy prophet.
Noble Jew Ali.
Amen.
Ashe. Otep. Okay. Alright, to get this meeting started, as really we're supposed to do every meeting, is read a letter that Noble Jew Ali wrote.
Don't eat this too much.
Because on the letter it says, to be proclaimed in every meeting. It says, Dear brother, I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement by the same people of our side of the nation that claim it was a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so that they themselves may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is to the faithful Moors that contribute to the movement and uplifting funds, the ones that pay their divine respect to me and the movement, that will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance as badly as I do at present, that I may shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without me, your prophet, as the head. It has been proven by my work in which I have performed in the last few months, because I was at the governor's inauguration to represent the Moorish Divine and National Movement, and I will be at the inauguration of President Hoover for the same cause. Noble Jew Ali. Alright. So, from that, there's always something to take away, and once again we see that there's, back in that day when Jew Ali was still alive, there are people who he already recognized. He said, our side of the nation, right, that claim it was only a joke and unreal. Meaning that if they were on his side of the nation and claimed that it was only a joke and unreal, that means that they were involved somehow, obviously, right? And since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend on for their earthly salvation as American citizens, that means that although they knew what they needed to do, they didn't do it. So in other words, you could say that they sold their soul or what have you. But those people didn't necessarily have to pay in that time that they're living. Okay? They used the information and they grew and they formed their groups, etc. Now, Grand Sheik described in last class about different groups that were being, he read some pieces from the King Alfred plan, and he described some of the groups that were listed there. And he read something from the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. Alright? In the Anti-Defamation League, on their website, they have a section under extremism in America. And under this section, they have sovereign citizen movement. And it says, for the sovereign citizen movement, Origins circa 1970, fully developed by early 1980s. Their ideology, it says, anti-government, some white supremacist elements. Outreach, vigilante courts, seminars, shortwave radio, the internet, schools of common law. Notable episodes: 1996 Montana Freeman standoff, 1997 Republic of Texas standoff tactics, paper terrorism, including frivolous lawsuits, frivolous liens, fictitious financial instruments, fictitious automobile-related documents, and misuse of genuine documents such as IRS forms, various frauds and scams. A hot tactic, redemption. See below. And their definition, it says here, the sovereign citizen movement is a loosely organized collection of groups and individuals who have adopted a right-wing antichrist ideology, originating in the theories of a group called the Posse Comitatus in the 1970s. Its adherents believe that virtually all existing government in the United States is illegitimate, and they seek to restore an idealized, minimalist government that never actually existed. To this end, sovereign citizens wage war against the government and other forms of authority using paper terrorism, harassment, and intimidation tactics, and occasionally resorting to violence. Good. And under the information they have here, they describe this case of a son and a father, the Cains, who in May 2010 in West Memphis, Arkansas, were riding around in a vehicle, and they were stopped by police officers, and the officers got out of the car, and the son actually got out of the driver's side and shot one of the officers. Later on, I think they got into an accident and they were killed in the accident, it says here. Then they have other examples. In April 1992, an angry resident of Canaanland County, Michigan, wrote a letter to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, stating he was no longer a citizen of the corrupt political corporate state of Michigan and the United States of America, and was unanswerable only to the common laws. He therefore expressly revoked his signature on any hunting or fishing licenses, which he viewed as contracts that fraudulently bound him to the illegitimate government of Michigan. Again, under ideology, it says the pernicious 14th Amendment. The ideology of the sovereign citizen movement had matured and crystallized by the 1980s as an unusual form of right-wing anarchism that focuses, on the one hand, on the importance of local control, and on the other hand, on the avoidance of virtually all forms of authority and obligation. The tactics: terrorism and paper terrorism. And then it has information about more examples in the early 1990s in a standoff at Ruby Ridge, Idaho. Right? So some themes that are coming up that we see in these, what do they call it here? Right? These extremist groups, right? And these sovereign citizen movements. What themes do you guys see? Like, for instance, there's a number of examples here that have standoffs with different organizations, governmental or security organized groups, right? On the board, Grand Sheik wrote anti-government, right? In the definition, they talked about minimalist government. So basically, we went over this because although Grand Sheik went over it in Tuesday's class, talking about how there are certain people trying to mesh our movement with these sovereign citizen movements, right? Well, first of all, Grand Sheik already told us, and we already know that a sovereign in any land is the person who is indigenous to the land, first and foremost. And next, if you're sovereign, then by definition you're a citizen. Okay? So it's almost pretty much an oxymoron to say sovereign citizen. Right? Also, we notice that in the definition it says, sovereign citizen movement is a loosely organized collection of groups and individuals who have adopted a right-wing anarchist ideology. So anarchist, according to the ADL. Right? Also, a loosely organized collection of groups and individuals. Right? We also understand that as Moors, we have the Moorish American National Government. We have Moorish Science Temple of America, right? Incorporated in 1928, right? So we are very organized, okay? We have when there's a temple needs to have before a temple can be a temple, it has to have the charter, right? The temple has to have a charter from the head temples, right? And so this is how our delegation of authority is carried about in the sense of the temple. But again, we understand that as Moors, the indigenous people here on this land, okay? And the prophet said, study, 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 right? And he asked me, what should I study next? Study yourself, right? So, doing that, it's not about coming up with proofs or pieces of information about who you are, but it's about realizing that chances are the more you study, the less you'll find any kind of involvement as a victim in any kind of slavery, right? And that's been my case, as with my studies, my personal, you know what I mean? Family studies and so. So, anybody else have anything they want to add to this? What they see as far as these sovereign citizens?
In regards to the anti-government, what was happening in Toronto with the Occupy Toronto movement? Will that be considered anti-government or anti-corporation or anti-authority per se?
One thing that I noticed was that for the most part there are a lot of people who, for whatever reason, had to abide by these eviction orders and things that they're getting from the city, right? However, in terms of anti-government, the thing is, they would have to say, well, we're anti-government. And I hadn't really studied them enough to say whether they were or not. I just know that their intentions seem to be that they're more anti-corporation. Okay. However, they don't seem to understand that a corporation, the root word of corporation is corp. Corporal means body. Right? A corporation is a body. Right? Like I said, having some sort of organization, right? Some sort of constitution. Right? And all corporations actually have constitutions. That's how they keep themselves ordered. So, as far as they're concerned, yeah, I guess they would like to describe themselves as anti-corporation. And in relation to this, we're not anti-corporation, and we're not anti-government. So, as they're related to the sovereign citizen movement, obviously they're not really on that level, right? But because I do know, you'll notice a lot of these people here are actively doing things against the government. The aim is not to actively do anything against anybody. The aim is to uplift, the aim is to educate people, right? So that they just like Buddha always says, you don't have to take the land back. Right?
The remedy is reclaim it.
Reclaim it, right? So, that's a good point, but